I remember fondly her soft-spoken nature, her love of family, and her kind and welcoming smile. Please rise in body or in spirit for hymn 1051, We Are. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of South County. I am Johnnie Rodriquez, and I will be your worship associate today. We are an open and welcoming congregation comprised of people from different backgrounds, ethnicities, and faith traditions. We welcome diversity in all its many forms. We are so glad you're here. We would also like to welcome any new people. Please stand if you are willing, so we could welcome you personally. And could today's greeters please stand? If you have any questions, those are the people to ask. Patience, Sky, Jean, and here's some new people. Thank you. Do you want to say who you are? Tony.
I'm Gran'daddy Junebug.
Of course, I forgot something. We would like to start by honoring Indigenous nations and acknowledging the historic relationship of the Narragansett, Nipmuc, Wampanoag, and Niantic and Menaceian peoples in what is currently known as Rhode Island, and the enduring present-day relationship of the Narragansett Nation, Narragansett and Niantic peoples on the land we currently call South Kingstown, that some of us are on right now. The announcements, we always mention the restrooms are back down the hall. Women on the right, gender neutral on the left. And the exits are the door that you came in, the door that goes out through this room. There's an exit at the far end of the hall, and there's kind of a secret exit behind me out of the music room. Masks are strongly requested. We would like to suggest that you take this hour as a restful respite from the demands of technology, particularly cell phone. A quick shout out to the tech associates for today. Kat, and I think Kathy was on earlier. And of course, Nancy is helping out with the filming here. Other announcements that I have are, there's going to be a Japan Day this Wednesday, January 29th at Davisville Middle School with workshops on origami dragons, flower arrangement, Japanese language, and a quiz game show. There's some flyers on the table out where you came in if you want more information. Davisville is in North Kingstown. I brought this just to show you that there was an online service last Monday night called For Such a Time as This. And there were, gosh, probably close to 20 different pastors and faith leaders. And you can go to the United Church of Christ website, which is just ucc.org, and the recording of the service is still there. So I wanted you to know, because about a dozen of us have watched it and found it really inspiring. And the other thing that's really inspiring, of course, is Fundafest and the Rhode Island Black Storytellers. And this afternoon, they will be having the closing concert, storytelling concert called Sacred Tales. It's always a wonderful time. And what you can do when you leave this service, if you go home and get online and you put in fundafest.org, it will pop up with a place where you can buy a $20 ticket and sit on your couch and watch these wonderful storytellers. So consider doing that. It's time for our chalice lighting. Barbara? Some say it's dark, we cannot see, but love lights up the world for me. Real power is yours and mine, so let your little light shine. Internationally known master storyteller, actor, and poet Mitch Gran'daddy Junebug Capel, he performed at President Barack Obama's first inauguration, brings his special blend of wisdom and wit to us today. He draws on his grandmother's readings of Paul Laurence Dunbar, on his father's Creek talk from Winslow, North Carolina, on the open-hearted friendliness of his Southern roots, and on his lifelong love of poetry and colors. He has told stories at more than a dozen festivals and prestigious venues, more than 2,000 schools nationwide, received numerous awards, recorded CDs and DVDs, and appeared in PBS documentaries. We are honored to have him with us today. The opening words are some quotes. The first two are on Mitch Capel's homepage. Booker T. Washington said, "A lie doesn't become true, wrong doesn't become right, and evil doesn't become good just because it's accepted by a majority." Harry Belafonte said, "Artists are the great gatekeepers of truth. We are civilization's anchor. We are the compass for America's conscience." And I've been reading one of Martin Luther King's books, and this is what he had to say. "I believe that unarmed truth and unconditional love will have the final word in reality. This is why right, temporarily defeated, is stronger than evil triumphant." Please rise in body or in spirit to say our covenant together. Love is the spirit of this congregation, and so is this prayer. This our great covenant, dwell together in peace, seek the truth in love, and to help one another. We will now have a story from Gran'daddy Junebug.
Thank you for that warm introduction. Thank you for inviting me to this beautiful church, this beautiful congregation. As she mentioned earlier, Johnnie said earlier, my grandmother, Rodriquez, was when it got me involved in storytelling. She would read Dunbar to me. Paul Laurence Dunbar was that American poet. She would read his work to me when I was 3 years old. And one particular poem she always read, it was called A Cat Tale. And so I'm going to give you the first one of it. And so she would put me in that galvanized tub, and y'all don't know nothing about that, y'all rich folks. And she would wash me with that hot soap. And she would tuck me into the bed and pull up that rocking chair. And she would pull out that book. And the fact that she could read, number one, and the fact that she could read the dialect, number two, was fascinating to her. She was more excited about reading the story to us than I think we were. But this is how it goes. Want a story? Just hit that. Now, where y'all think I get a story at? Didn't I tell y'all D last night? Go away, children, y'all ain't right. I got something else to do besides just telling tales to you. Tell you just one? Well, let me see. What that one of mine be? When you's old, your memory fails. Seem like I don't know the tales. Well, sit down there like you're in a chair and keep still if you wants to hear. You take them chins up off them hands and sit up nice now in this land. Hold yourself up like your ma and pa. Bet nobody ever saw them all scrunched down like y'all was then. High-tone girls and boys makes high-tone women's and men's. Once they was this big bear. Used to live around here somewhere in a cave. He was so big, he could carry off a pig. Like you pick a chicken up, your little bit of pup. And he had two great big eyes, just about a saucer size. Why, they looked like two balls of fire dancing around upon a wire when that bear was mad, and Lord, y'all ought to see his paws. Did I see him? Child, how you expect that I was going to recollect this here yarn I'm trying to spin if you keep on putting in? Dad, now don't you cheat, unless I send you off to sleep. Now this here bear, he go trumping round, eating everything he found. No one couldn't have a farm in case that bear, he do him harm. And they couldn't catch that scamp. Anywhere he wanted to tramp, that a scoundrel, make his track, do his due, and get on back. He was such a sly old limb, traps was just like fun to him. Now down near where Mr. Bear lived, there was a weasel there. But they wasn't friends at all, in case that weasel was so small. And the bear, just for sass, turned his nose up when he passed. Weasel small, of course, but my, them little animals is sly. Y'all say that with me. Weasel small, of course, but my, them little animals is sly. So this one says he, I'll just fix that bear. You see. So he fixes up a plan. And he hunts the farmer man. Now when the farmer see him come, he Mitch looking mighty glum. And he catches up a stick. But the weasel, he speak up quick. He said, "Oh, Mr. Farmer man, I want to explain my little thing. If you wait, I'll tell you where and just how to catch that bear. But I tell you now, you must give me one fat chicken first." Well, the farmer, he scratched his head. Last he said, "I'll make the trade." So the weasel, ate his hand, smacked his mouth, and said, "Well then, set your bait trap tonight and you'll catch that bear, all right." So the weasel looks to see Mr. Bear and says he, "Well, friend Bear, we ain't been friends, but tonight hard feelings end. Now if you ain't too proud to steal, we can get a splendid meal. Course I wouldn't come to you, but it must be done by two. It's a trap, but we can beat all day tricks and get to me." Goes on what you says the bear. "Come on, weasel, show me where." Well, they walked along on 12. There that meat began to smell in the trap. Then weasel said, "Okay, you hold your paw this way, whilst I hold this spring back so, then you grab the meat and go." Well, that bear, he had to grin as he put his big paw in. But when he juked up, kaboom! So he let go of the spring. Said the weasel, "I done catch you, Mr. Bear." Oh, that bear did smoke and stop, trying his bestest to get out. But the weasel said, "Goodbye. Weasel small, but weasel sly." Y'all say that with me. Weasel small, but weasel sly. So the weasel went and run, told that farmer what he done. And the farmer come down there with a cage and caged that bear. And if y'all want to see him too, Just go and visit the closest zoo.
Yeah, now ain't that story found?
Go run along there, never mind.
No, some more.
You rascals, you, no sons and ma'ams, that'll do.
And sing the children.
A sacred time in our service. When anyone may speak about a joy or concern, please tell us your name and your joy or concern and drop a pebble into the bowl.
I'm Chris Johnson, and I have a joy. I want to thank all of you who came here for this Sunday, all the compassion, the empathy, and concern and care during this difficult time for me with the passing of my wife. So I want to thank all of you. It is truly a joy to see all of you here today and to have you acknowledging her memory.
Hi, everyone. I'm Andrea. Some of you may remember Rick Sanford. He's part of our congregation and he's come, but now that he moved to East Providence, he doesn't come so frequently. Mid-January, his mom died. And so he's been spending a lot of time with his family and with his father and, another loss. Just another loss. So here's a pebble in memory of his mother's memory and a pebble in just thinking of Rick.
I am Patience Capel. I've been speaking about the kindness of my brother who does have cancer. He's gone to hospice, so at least that way he's not in pain in the same way. I'm not facing his loss well.
Barbara Page. This is a pebble of joy. My grandson Travis turns 5 today. He is joy.
I need to read the things off here, but I don't know how to do it. No, there's nothing. And did you just turn that mic off? I did. Okay, well, I'll read it from here. I'm going to drop a pebble of concern for immigrant families, for LGBTQIA persons, for women whose health is endangered, for citizens who are threatened by fires, floods, and severe weather. May we turn our fears and anxiety into action. I add one last pebble to represent the joys and concerns that remain in our hearts and go unspoken. Let us take a moment of silence to consider what has been shared. Let us take a moment to reflect on what has been shared here. The work of this congregation is ably supported by the time, talents, and treasures of its members and friends. Chris Johnson will now give us Somewhere Over the Rainbow while we take today's offering. We will use your gifts wisely and well. Please welcome Mitch Capel to speak about who we were and who we are.
Who we were. Who we are. He stood beside the station rail. A Negro aged and bent and frail. His palsied hands like the aspen shook. A mute appeal was in his look. His every move was pain and slow. His matted hair, white as snow. He noticed our questioning looks and said, with a solemn shake of his hoary head, I know you're wondering, and well you may, where an old man like me is going today. I lived in this town for 30 years, know the life, my joy and tears. I labored hard year out, year in. Now I'm going back again to the bluegrass meadows and the fields of corn in the dear old state where I was born. It's the same old tale that I have to tell, and there's but few of my race what knows it well. When first the proclamation come, I felt too free to stay at home. Freedom, it seemed, was the gift divine, and it seemed the whole wide world was mine. Then I was spry, and my hair was black, and this troublesome crick wasn't in my back. My soul was always full of song, cause my heart was light, and my limbs were strong. And I wasn't afraid to show my face to the sturdiest worker on the place. Well, I caught the fever that ruled the day, and finally Norfolk made my way. They say that things was better enough, and a man was held at his honest worth. Well, that may be so, but I have some doubt. In 30 years, they knocked it out. Oh, there's lots of things in the North to admire. Though they had the warmth and amplified all my life, I've been used to seeing thought belonged to a human being. And the one thing I did surely miss
was that real old Southern heartedness. Year after year, I worried alone. But deep in my heart, the yearning strong grew stronger and fiercer to visit once more the well-loved scenes of my native show. But money was scarce. Time went on. Now, full 30 years gone, I turned my weary steps to roam back to my old Kentucky home, back to the old Kentucky sights, back to the scenes of my youth delights, back where my soul was filled with grief, back where I first found liberty. Now, as I think the old times o'er, and of the joy they held in store, yes, even now on life's dark side, my heart swells out with honest pride. Oh, bless the land that I shall see once more, the land so dear to me. Don't mind an old man's tears, but say it's joy. He's going back today. Going back.
By Paul Laurence Dunbar. Change gears, Samuel W. S.W. Foss wrote a poem called The Volunteer Organist, where he said the great big church was crowded, full of broadcloth and of silk, and satin rich as cream that grows on old brindle's milk. Bald shirts, stiff collars, and stovepipe hats was there, and men with pants on so tight they couldn't kneel down in prayer. The elder in the pulpit high said as he slowly reads, our organist is kept at home, laid up with rheumatiz. And as we have no substitute, as Brother Mo ain't here, could someone in the congregation be so kind as to volunteer? It was then a ruffled homeless man of low-down rowdy style gave an introductory, then staggered down the aisle. And through that holy atmosphere, there crept a sense of sin, and through the air of sanctity, the odor of old gin. Then Deacon Pearlington yelled, his teeth all set on edge, this man profanes the house of God. Why, this is sacrilege. The homeless man didn't hear a word he said, but slouched with stumbling feet and swayed and staggered up the steps and gained the organ seat. He then went pawing through the keys, and soon there rose a strain that seemed to just bulge out the heart and electrify the brain. And then he slammed down on the thing with hands and head and knees and slam dashed his whole body down, kerflop, upon the keys. The organ roared, the music flood went sweeping high and dry. It swelled up into the rafters, then bulged out into the sky. The old church shook and swaggered and seemed to reel and sway. The elder shouted, glory. And someone yelled, oh, every day. And then he tried a tender strain that melted in our ears, that brought up blessed memories and drenched them down with tears. And then we dreamed of old-time kitchens with good food on the mat, of home, of love, baby days, Big Mama, and all of that. And then he struck a streak of hope, a song from souls forgiven that broke through prison walls of sin and stormed the gates of heaven. The morning stars, they sang together. No soul was left alone. We felt the universe was safe and God was on his throne. But then a wail of deep despair and darkness come again.
and a long black crape hung on the doors of all the homes of men. No love, no light, no joy, no hope, no songs of great delight. And then the man, he staggered down and reeled into the night. But we knew he had told his story, though he never spoke a word. And it was the saddest story that our ears had ever heard. He had told his own life's history, and no eye was dry that day when the elder rose and simply said, "My brethren, let us pray." The volunteer organist. Paul Dunbar wrote a poem called Religion. His nickname was the Deacon because of his melodious voice, and he tried to get him to become a minister, but he wouldn't. But he wrote a poem called Religion where he said, "I am no priest of crooks or creeds, for human wants and human needs are more to me than prophets' deeds. And human tears and human cares affect me more than human prayers. Go cease your wail, lugubrious saint. You fret high heaven with your plaint. Is this the Christian's joy you paint? Is this the Christian's boasted bliss? Avails your faith no more than this? Take up your arms, come out with me. Let heaven alone. Humanity needs more, and heaven less of thee. With pity for mankind, look round. Help them to rise, and heaven is found." Dunbar wrote another little poem. He said, "The Lord, he had a job for me, but I had so much to do. I said, Lord, could you get somebody else to wait till I get through?" I don't know how the Lord come out, but he seemed to get along, but I felt sort of sneaking like, no, I'd done God wrong. One day I needed the Lord, needed him right away, but he never answered me at all. I could hear him say down in my accusing heart, "Brother, I've got too much to do. You get somebody else or wait till I get through it." Now when the Lord, he has a job for me, I doesn't try as a shirk. I drops whatever I has on hand and does the good Lord's work. And my affairs can run along or wait till I get through. Nobody else can do the work what God's marked down for you, you, and you. You get somebody else, Paul Dunbar. Then he wrote a little verse called Theology, where he simply said, "There is a heaven. Forever, day by day, the upward longing of my soul doth tell me so. There is a hell, I'm quite as sure. For pray, if there were not, where would my neighbor go?" We had the children out here, and I remember a poem came to me while I was talking to them. I usually preface this by, it's written by a very famous writer, first name Arthur, last name unknown. Wrote a lot of nice poetry. But I preface it by saying this is for those of you who one day may have children, and this is for those of you who already have children. This is when you want to be like the people in the house next door. "I got 2 A's, the small boy said. His voice was filled with glee. His father very bluntly asked, "Why didn't you get 3? "Mom, I've got the dishes done," the girl called from the door. Her mother shrugged and simply asked, "Well, did you sweep the floor?" "I mowed the grass," the tall boy said, "and put the mower away." His father simply asked, "Did you wipe off all the clay?" The children in the house next door seemed happy and more content. The same things happened over there, and this is how it went. "I got 2 A's, the small boy said. His voice was filled with glee. His father very proudly said, "I'm glad you belong to me." "Mom, I've got the dishes done," the girl called from the door. Her mother smiled and calmly said, "Each day I love you more." "I mowed the grass," the tall boy said, "and put the mower away." His father answered with much joy, "You made my happy day." See, children need a little praise for tasks they're asked to do if they're to lead a happy life.
So much depends on you, and you. All right. Lastly, when I look at tragedies and hurricanes and all the things that are happening around our world, I'm reminded of Dunbar's poem called Disappointed, where he said, an old man planted and dug and tended, toiling in joy from dew to dew. The sun was kind and the rain befriended. Fine was his orchard and fair to view. Then the old man said, I will silence my thrifty fears, for here is fruit for my failing years. But even then the storm clouds gathered, swallowing up the azure sky. Sweeping winds into white foam laden the placid breast of the bay hard by. Then the evil spirit that was in that air swept over his orchard and made it bare. The old man stood in the rain uncaring, viewing the place where the storm had swept, and then with a cry from his soul despairing, bowed him down to the earth and wept. Then a voice came loud from the rising rain, from the pouring rain. Arise, old man, and plant again. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Closing hymn is What a Wonderful World. We will now have closing words from Mitch and Capel.
My closing remarks are 6 human beings were trapped by accident in dark and bitter cold. Each one possessed a stick of wood, or so the stories told. The dying fire was in need of wood. The first woman held hers back because on the faces around the fire, she noticed one was black. The next person looking across the way saw not one of his church, could not bring himself to give the fire his stick of birch. The poor man sat in ragged clothes and gave his coat a hitch. Why should his piece of wood be used to warm the idle rich? The rich man sat and thought of all he had in store and how to keep what he had earned from the tired and helpless poor. The black man's face showed revenge as the fire passed from sight, for all he saw in his piece of wood was the chance to spite the white. The next person of this selfish group did nothing except for gain, giving only to those who gave to her was how she played the game. The wood held tight in death's still hands was proof of human sin. You see, they did not die from the cold without, but they died from the cold within. Let us not, as the human race or this country, die from the cold within. Let us continue to help our brothers and sisters, whoever they are, suffering around the world. We got a tough 4 years. Thank you. Thank you. And in conclusion, as a quiet little seedling lay within its darksome bed, to itself it fell a-talking, and this is what it said. I am not so very robust, but I'll do the best I can. And that seedling, from that moment, its work of life began. So it pushed a little leaflet up into the light of day to examine the surroundings and show the rest the way. The leaflet liked the prospect, and it called its brother, still. And 2 other leaflets heard it and quickly followed them. To be sure, the haste and hurry made the little seedling pant but almost before it knew it, it found itself a plant. The sunshine poured upon it, and the clouds, they gave a shower, and that little plant kept growing till it found itself a flower. Folks, be like the little seedling. Always do the best you can. Everyone must share life's labors, be you child, woman, or man. And the sun and rain will help you through life's lonesome struggling hours to you raise to light and beauty, virtue's fair, unfading flowers. It's for your wife. Thank you. One last thing. Go Commanders.
Please join me as we say the words for extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this chalice, but not its light. That we take with us out into the world, sharing it with those we encounter on our journey. Now you could stand and sing our closing song with us. We could form a circle, maybe, or a big circle.